Good day, everyone. I am Rizal K. Azar, and today I will be presenting the topic Prohibited Acts under Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection, based on Republic Act number 9147, also known as the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act. This law was enacted on July 30, 2001, and serves as the main rule in our country to protect our wild animals, plants, and their natural homes. In this report, I will explain the specific acts that are strictly prohibited or illegal, who is in charge of enforcing the law, and the penalties you will face if you violate it. Section 2. Declaration of Policy. It is the state's policy to conserve the country's wildlife resources and their habitats for sustainability. Objectives. 1. Conserve and protect wildlife species and habitats to promote ecological balance and enhance biological diversity. 2. Regulate the collection and trade of wildlife. 3. Fulfill Philippine commitment to international conventions regarding wildlife protection. 4. Initiate or support scientific studies on biodiversity conservation. Section 2 explains the policy and goals of the law. So, the government's main aim is to conserve wildlife and their habitats so they last forever. We want to keep nature balanced, control trading, follow international agreements, and support scientific studies. Section 3. Scope of application. Enforceable to all wildlife species found in all areas of the Philippines. Covers protected areas under Republic Act No. 7586 or NIPAS Act and critical habitats, and also applies to exotic species or foreign species that are traded, cultured, bred, or propagated in our country, and covers all forms, alive, dead, parts, products, derivatives, and byproducts. Section 3 tells us the coverage of this law. It applies nationwide, covering all areas including protected zones. It covers all native animals and plants, and even foreign species brought here. Importantly, the law protects them in any form, alive, dead, or as part and products. Section 4. Jurisdiction or agencies in charge. DENR or Department of Environment and Natural Resources, all terrestrial plants and animals, turtles, tortoises, wetland species, crocodiles, water birds, amphibians, and dugong. Second, DA or Department of Agriculture, all aquatic or marine resources, fishes, aquatic plants, invertebrates, marine mammal except dugong. PCSD or Palawan Council for Sustainable Development has exclusive jurisdiction in the province of Palawan per Republic Act No. 7611. Section 4 assigns responsibilities. DENR handles land and wetland species. DA handles marine and aquatic resources except dugong, which is under DENR. And lastly, the Palawan Council or PCSD has exclusive authority over the whole province of Palawan. Section 5 Key Definitions. Wildlife. Wild forms are varieties of flora and fauna in all stages of life, including those in captivity or being bred. Threatened species. General term for species at risk categorized as critically endangered, facing extremely high risk of extinction immediately. Endangered, survival unlikely if causes continue, not critically endangered yet. Vulnerable, under threat, likely to become endangered soon. Endemic species, naturally found only in the Philippines. Exotic species, species not naturally found in the country. Habitat, natural environment where a species lives and breeds. Trade, exchange, export, import, purchase, or sale, local or international. Section 5 gives us the meaning of important terms. Wildlife includes animals even if kept in cages. Threatened, Species are those in danger, ranked from vulnerable to critically endangered. Endemic means they are uniquely ours, while exotic means they are foreign. Trade covers buying, selling, or transporting them anywhere. So next, hunting, collecting, and trading of endangered species. Prohibited Act: killing, hunting, or destroying wildlife, Section 27A. It is unlawful to kill, destroy, or inflict injury to wildlife species. First, let me start with this important note. Hunting, collecting, and trading endangered species are not small offenses. These are considered the worst violation of wildlife laws. If you commit these acts, you face the heaviest penalties, fines, or even imprisonment compared to other wildlife violations. Exceptions. Only allowed in these specific cases. 1. Done as part of religious rituals of established indigenous cultural communities. So it means only for recognized indigenous groups and only when it is part of their traditional religious or cultural rituals. This is strictly regulated and only for communities with official status. 2. Wildlife is afflicted with an incurable communicable disease. So it means the animal has a sickness that cannot be cured, and it can spread disease to other animals or people. 3. Necessary to end misery or suffering of the animal. So it means an animal is badly hurt, sick, or suffering so much that ending its pain is the only humane choice. 4. To prevent imminent danger to human life or limb. It means the animal is about to attack, hurt, or kill a person. This is the only to protect human life. 5. After authorized scientific research or experiments. It means only if it is part of scientific research or experiments that have already been approved and permitted by government authorities. So, here is the most important reminder. If you kill, hunt, or hurt an endangered species, and you do not fall under any of those 5 exceptions, this is the worst possible offense. You will face the maximum fine, the longest imprisonment, and the heaviest punishment under the law. Prohibited Act: collecting, capturing, or possessing, Section 27F. Under Section 27F, you are not allowed to catch, take, gather, or keep any wildlife animal. Under Section 27F, you are not allowed to catch, take, gather, or keep any wild animals or plant. This is also include their parts like fur, bones, feathers, or seeds. And this is illegal if you do not have a legal permit from the government. So, you cannot take animals or plants from the wild. You cannot keep them as pets or in captivity unless you hold a valid wildlife collector's permit or gratuitous permit. So, to be allowed possession, you must prove this. So first, financial capability to maintain them. Second, technical knowledge to care for them. Third, proper facilities or enclosures. Fourth, that the source was not illegal. So, let me explain this down clearly. First rule, you cannot just go to the forest, sea, or wild area to take any animals or plant home. That is stealing from nature and it is illegal. Second, you cannot keep wild animals as pets or keep plants in your home or farm unless you have a special government permit called Wildlife Collector's Permit. Without this paper, keeping them is a crime. Third, even if you apply for a permit, you will only be allowed if you prove 4 things. First, the money. You have enough budget to feed, house, and care for them properly. Second, knowledge. You know how to take care of them, what they eat, their habits, and how to keep them healthy. Third, facilities. You have a safe, proper cage, enclosure or space suitable for that animal or plant. Legal sources. You must prove exactly where you got them and that they were not taken illegally from the wild. The next, Prohibited Act, Trading of Wildlife Section 27E. Trading of wildlife, their byproducts or derivatives is unlawful. So the third major violation under Section 27E, it is illegal to trade or deal in wildlife, alive or dead, and any part or product made from them. Trading is one of the biggest reasons why many species are disappearing, so the law bans it strictly. Definition of trade. First, any transaction, buying, selling, swapping, giving in exchange, sending out of the country, bringing into the country, or sending again to another place. Second, any form, selling the live animal, dead animal, or even just parts like meat, fur, feathers, bones, seeds, oil, medicine extracts, stuffed animals, or dried plant samples. Third, even if you trade just a small part or product, it is still illegal if that animal or plant came from an illegal source or was taken without a permit. So these are the permits required for legal movement or trade. There are very rare cases where movement or breeding is allowed, but only with these official permits. Wildlife Farm Permit, if you want to breed or raise wildlife legally. Export or import or re-export permit, if you need to send or bring wildlife across borders. Local transport permit, if you need to move wildlife from one place to another within the country. Without these exact permits, any movement or trade is a violation of the law. Next, destruction of wildlife habitats. Prohibited Act, Activities in Critical Habitats Section 27C. Under Section 27C of the law, there is a special type of protected area called a critical habitat. Inside these areas, you are not allowed to do any of the activities. All these acts are illegal because they directly damage or ruin the home of endangered and threatened species. It is unlawful to perform the following acts within critical habitats. First, dumping of waste products or substances detrimental to wildlife. So it means you cannot throw garbage, plastic, chemicals, oil, trash, or any harmful material here. Waste poisons the water, soil, and food that animals and plants need. It makes the whole area unsafe and deadly for wildlife. Second, squatting or illegally occupying any portion of the habitat. So you cannot build houses, settle, or take over any part of this land without legal permission. Living here, farming here, or using the land for yourself pushes wildlife out and destroys their natural home. Third, mineral exploration and or extraction or mining, so digging, blasting, or taking minerals like gold, copper, or stone is completely banned here. Mining digs up the ground, cut trees, and changes the whole landscape so much that wildlife can no longer live there. Fourth, burning. You are not allowed to burn vegetation, grass, or trees, even for farming or clearing land. Fire destroys everything, trees, plants, shelters, food, and it kills small animals, eggs, and insects too. It leaves nothing behind for wildlife. Fifth, logging or cutting trees. Cutting trees, whether for timber, firewood, or clearing land, is illegal here. Trees are homes, shelters, and food sources for many animals like birds, monkeys, and insects. Without trees, the habitat is gone. 6. Quarrying or removing soil or rocks. You cannot dig, take, or remove soil, sand, gravel, or rocks. This changes the shape of the land, destroys natural shelters, blocks water flow, and ruins the ground where plants grow. It breaks the balance of the whole area. So what is critical habitat under Section 25? First, areas outside protected areas where threatened species are found. Second, designated by DENR based on scientific data, species richness, and presence of threats. Third, these areas are legally protected from exploitation and destruction. Prohibited Act, destroying breeding sites under Section 27G. It is a separate and serious crime to destroy places where wildlife reproduce, lay eggs, or raise their young. Even if you are not in a critical habitat, this act is illegal everywhere. So it is illegal to cut down trees where bird nests or plants where butterflies or insects live. So you cannot cut or damage trees where birds have built their nest, or plants where butterflies, bees, or insects lay their eggs or live. These are their homes and their nurseries. Damaging them stops them from having babies. Second, destroying eggs, dens, or breeding grounds is a separate violation. It is also illegal to break, take, or destroy eggs, or destroy dens, burrows, or caves where animals give birth or raise their young. This is a separate violation, meaning even if you did nothing else, doing this alone is already a crime with its own penalty. So let's proceed to next. Illegal possession or transport of wildlife. Prohibited Act, illegal possession under Section 8 and Section 27F. No person or entity shall be allowed possession of wildlife unless such person or entity can prove financial and technical capability and facility. Possession without proper registration or permit is illegal. This means you cannot just keep or own any wildlife animal, plant, or species even if you say you found it or rescued it, unless you meet three main requirements. 1. Financial capability. You have enough money to properly feed, house, and care for the wildlife long term. Second, technical capability. You have the knowledge, skills, or training to take care of that specific species, knowing what it eats, its health needs, how to handle it safely. Third, proper facility. You have a safe, suitable space or enclosure that fits the animal's needs. Also, having wildlife without official registration or government-issued permit is automatically illegal. No exceptions. Section 26. All threatened and exotic species owned before the law was passed had to be registered within 12 months. Unregistered animals were confiscated. So the government gave a 12-month grace period or 1 full year to register these animals legally. If they did not register within that 1-year deadline, their ownership became illegal. The government has the right to confiscate or take away any unregistered wildlife, and the owner will face penalties too. This was done to make sure all wildlife is accounted for, monitored, and cared for properly. Prohibited Act, illegal transport under Section 27I. Transporting of wildlife, their byproducts or derivatives without the necessary permit. Moving wildlife from one province, city, or municipality to another requires a local transport permit, valid 1 to 3 months. Using vehicles, boats, or planes to move illegal wildlife is a crime. Penalty increases if illegal methods of transport are used. So it means no permit is illegal transport. You cannot move any wildlife or anything made from wildlife unless you have an official transport permit. Permit requirement: even if you own the animal legally and have a possession permit, if you want to bring it to another city, municipality, or province, you still need a local transport permit. This permit is only valid for 1 to 3 months, so you can only use it for the specific trip and time. Third, any mode of transport counts. It does not matter if you use a car, motorcycle, truck, boat, airplane, or even carry it by hand. If you move it across local boundaries without a permit, it is a crime. Higher penalties. If you use hidden compartments, fake documents, disguise the animal, or use secret or illegal ways to transport it, the punishment or fine or jail time will be much worse. This is because doing that shows you are intentionally breaking the law. Next, let's proceed to Introduction to Invasive Species. Prohibited Act. Introduction, reintroduction, or restocking under Section 27D. It is unlawful to introduce, reintroduce, or restock wildlife resources without clearance. This is a strict rule from Philippine environmental law. It means you are not allowed to bring wildlife, release wildlife, or add more wildlife to an area unless you have official permission or clearance from the proper government agencies. Doing this without approval is a crime or violation of the law. Strict rules. 1. Section 13. No exotic species shall be introduced unless clearance from DENR or DA is obtained and an environmental impact study or EIS is conducted. So before bringing or introducing any foreign or exotic species, two things are required. First, official permit or clearance from DENR or DA. Second, an environmental impact study, a full report and research to check. Will this species harm our environment? Will it kill native animals? Will it destroy our habitats? If you don't have both, it is illegal. Number 2. Absolute ban. You cannot introduce exotic species into protected areas or critical habitats. First, protected areas. It means special places like forests, parks, reserves, legally protected because they are home to rare or endangered species. Second, critical habitats. It means areas that are very important for wildlife survival or breeding grounds, feeding areas, or etc. No exceptions. Even if you have a permit or study, you are never allowed to bring or put foreign or exotic species in these areas. These places must be kept safe and pure for our native wildlife only. So let's proceed to number 3. Why is it prohibited? Invasive species kill or outcompete native or endemic species, destroy habitats, and spread disease. Example, janitor fish, water hyacinth, cane toad. So, native or endemic species, it means animals or plants that belong only to the Philippines or naturally live here. They are already adapted to our environment. So when foreign or invasive species come, they eat the food or take the space of our native species. Native animals or plants die or disappear. So they destroy nature, they eat plants, break down habitats, or change the balance of the environment. Also, they bring new sicknesses or disease that our native wildlife has no defense against. So these are some examples of invasive species in the Philippines. First, janitor fish. Eat eggs of local fish, destroys riverbeds and multiplies very fast. Second, water hyacinth. Grows and spreads very fast in lakes or rivers. And block water flow, kill fish, and clogs waterways. Third, cane toad. Poisonous to animals that try to eat it, breeds quickly, and eats small native animals or insects. So the next is the role of DENR and wildlife enforcement units. Role of DENR or DA. Regulation. Issue permits, classify species, designate critical habitats. So, this means DENR and DA are the ones who approve or deny permission for activities involving wildlife, like keeping a wild animal, breeding it, or moving it from one place to another. They also group or classify species. For example, which ones are threatened, endangered, rare, or abundant. Lastly, they mark specific areas as critical habitats. These are places where wildlife lives, breeds, or feeds, and these areas are strictly protected so no one can destroy or disturb them. Second, management. Create rules, conduct scientific research, update the list of the threatened species annually. So, they make all the official rules and guidelines on how wildlife should be cared for, used, or protected. They also do studies and research to learn more about our wildlife, how many are left, where they live, and what they need to survive. Every year, they review and update the official list of threatened species. This is important because a species might become more endangered over time, so protection rules need to change too. Third, protection. Lead conservation programs manage protected areas. So, they are the main leaders of projects and programs that save wildlife, like breeding programs, reforestation, or education campaigns. They also manage all protected areas in the country, such as national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and nature reserves. They make sure these areas stay safe, no one cuts trees, hunt animals, or does anything harmful inside them. Wildlife enforcement units. So these are the teams and officers whose main job is to enforce and make sure the law is followed. They catch violators and stop illegal activities. So under Section 30, Deputation of Wildlife Enforcement Officer, deputation means DENR or DA gives official permission and training to people or groups to act as wildlife officers. They don't just hire government staff, they also train ordinary citizens, community leaders, NGOs, and volunteers to help. They also work closely with official agencies like the police, military, NBI, Customs, and Coast Guard. Once these officers are deputized, they have legal powers. 1. They can take away or seize any wild animals, wildlife product, tools used for hunting, or vehicle used to transport illegal wildlife. Second, they can arrest anyone caught breaking Republic Act No. 9147 like people hunting, selling, or keeping wild animals illegally. Third, they can enter houses, shops, warehouses, or vehicles to check or inspect, but only if they have a legal warrant or official permission, so no one's rights are abused. Section 33. Wildlife Traffic Monitoring Units. Established in strategic airports and seaports nationwide. Monitors transport and trade to prevent smuggling. Customs officer must coordinate with these units. These are special teams placed in all major airports, seaports, and border points because these are the places where people try to smuggle wildlife in or out of the country. Their job is to watch, check, and monitor everything being transported or traded. They make sure no one is hiding wild animals or wildlife products in luggage, cargo, or shipments. Customs officers work hand in hand with them, so nothing illegal slips through our borders. Section 32. Wildlife Rescue Centers. Government facilities to take custody of confiscated, abandoned, or donated wildlife. Provide care, rehabilitation, and eventual release or proper housing. So these are official government facilities or centers like hospitals and safe homes for wild animals. They take care of animals that were confiscated or taken from illegal owners or traders, abandoned or hurt in the wild, donated or given by people who can no longer take care of them. At these centers, experts feed them, treat their injuries, and help them get healthy again. Once they are strong and ready, they are released back into their natural home or habitat. If an animal is too hurt, too old, or cannot survive in the wild anymore, they are kept in the center in proper, safe housing for the rest of their life. So let's proceed to the next, which is penalties and sanctions. Penalties are based on conservation status of the species involved, the type of illegal act. Class 1. Critically endangered. These are the species closest to extinction, so penalties are the strictest. Stealing, trading, or collecting. This is the most serious violation if you kill, sell, or collect this species. You face long jail time and a large fine because every single individual left is vital to the species' survival. And for inflicting injury, harming them is still a major offense. Even if they don't die, injured animals or plants may not survive or reproduce, so the penalty is still high but less severe than killing or raiding. Lastly, habitat destruction or introduction. Destroying their home or bringing invasive species can wipe out entire population. The fine here can go up to 5 million because losing their habitat is often the biggest threat to their survival. Class 2. Endangered. These species are still at very high risk but slightly less critical than Class 1. Penalties are lower but still very strict. Killing or trading or collecting, taking or selling these species is a serious crime. Jail time and fines are lower than Class 1 but still heavy to discourage this act. Inflicting injury. Harming them is punishable, with penalties lower than killing or trading but still enough to serve as strong warning. Class 3. Vulnerable. These species are at risk of becoming endangered if not protected. Penalties are adjusted accordingly. So in killing, trading, or collecting, legal possession or trade is still a crime, but penalties are lighter compared to higher risk species. So in inflicting injury, harming them carries a shorter jail term and lower fine, but it remains illegal and punishable. Class 4. Other threatened or wildlife. This group covers all protected wildlife and threatened species, not in classes 1 to 3. Penalties are the lightest but still enforceable. So if you commit all violation, penalties here range from minor to moderate. For less serious violations, you might face only days in jail and a small fine. For more serious act, you can still go to prison for up to 2 years and pay a big fine. This ensures even common or less at-risk species are protected. In short, the more at risk the species is and the worse the act committed, the heavier the penalty. These rules exist not just to punish, but to stop harm before it happens, so our wildlife can continue to live and thrive for future generations. Additional sanctions. 1. Confiscation and forfeiture. All wildlife's derivatives, tools, traps, weapons, vehicles, boats, or equipment used in the crime are automatically forfeited to the government. This means everything involved in the illegal act will be taken away permanently and becomes property of the government. We do not return these items to the offender, whether it's a wildlife itself, products made from it, or tools and transport used to hunt, catch, or move them. This ensures offenders cannot use this thing against to commit more crimes and stop illegal wildlife or its part from going back to the market or environment. 2. Deportation. If offender is a foreigner or alien, deported immediately after serving sentence and paying fine. This applies only to non-citizens or foreigners who commit wildlife crimes here. First, they will complete their full prison term and pay all required fines. Right after that, they will be sent back to their home country immediately and are no longer allowed to stay or operate in our country. This ensures foreign offenders pay full punishment here and cannot stay to continue illegal activities. Third, fine escalation. Fines increase by 10% every 3 years to adjust for inflation. Over time, prices and the cost of living go up. This is called inflation. If fines stay the same for many years, they become too small and too easy to pay, so they no longer scare people from breaking the law. This is why fines go up by 10% every 3 years. This keeps the penalty strong, meaningful, and effective as a warning to everyone. Fourth, closure. Business establishment involved may be permanently closed. If a shop, processing plant, transport company, or any business is found helping or doing wildlife crimes, it can be ordered to close forever. It can never open or operate again. This targets business that make money from illegal activities, permanent closure take away their profit and their ability to operate, and sends a strong warning to all other businesses. You will lose everything if you break these laws. And last, liability for damages. Offender pays for restoration or rehabilitation of the habitat destroyed. Wildlife crimes do not only hurt animals, they destroy forests, damage land, ruin water sources, and destroy homes of many species. Under this rule, the offender is legally required to pay all costs to repair, restore, or bring back the habitat to its original good condition. This means the person who caused the damage pays to fix it, not the government and not the public. To conclude, all the prohibited acts we discussed are strictly forbidden under the law, not just as rules but as necessary safeguards. This prohibition exists to stop illegal exploitation, destruction, and harm to our wildlife resources and their natural habitats. They ensure our native species survive, our ecosystems stay balanced, and our rich natural heritage remains intact and protected for us and for the future generations. Upholding this law is our shared duty to keep our environment safe and thriving. Thank you for listening.